Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get started in just one more minute. Sorry for the small delay. Want to let people join. We see that the numbers are going up rapidly. And if you know anybody who eventually can't get in because this is a totally subscribed Zoom webinar, we expect to get up to 1,000 here, and then others are joining via YouTube and LinkedIn. So welcome. It's nice to have you here as well. Just to let everyone know that if you can't get in here to the Zoom, we have YouTube and we have LinkedIn going as well. Fantastic. A lot of love getting started. Very, very, very excited to have everyone here. We've been overwhelmed with the response to this session, and it's honestly a pleasure and a joy to be able to bring these sessions to you and to have one of our faculty, Damien Peters, here to present and just do a really cool presentation and workshop. So now that it's just 5 after, I'm going to go ahead and kick us off. So welcome, everybody. This is the AI Accelerated PM session, Tools and Workflows to Stand Out. My name is John Johnson. I'm one of the co-founders of the Master's in Product Management degree at the University of Maryland. And our star presenter and faculty in the program who's here today is Damien Peters. Damien is going to be giving you a wonderful session, and we cannot wait to hear everything that he has to say. Before we get started, I want to tell you all, and I hope you forgive me for this, just a little bit about our degree, and then we will go right into the session. And I'll also let you know a little bit about the backstory about how I got to know Damien, who is a really interesting guy and a unicorn in his own right. So at University of Maryland, we are taking a different approach to teaching product management. We are offering a Master's of Professional Studies in Product Management. And the intent is that this is a degree which we developed and we've been delivering for the last 3 years that has elite outcomes with public university values. That means we make it accessible, affordable, and rigorous. Oftentimes, when people are considering the degree, because there aren't that many other product management focused degrees out there, we get compared to boot camps, of which many exist, but the most famous one being product school, and MBA programs. And while both of those offer incredible value and definitely have their place, what we're focusing on is really serving those who want to become product leaders. So we have made it accessible by having a 100% online asynchronous program that is flexible to your schedule. Our goal is to teach you not just the tools and execution, but also product strategy, the techniques of discovery and delivery that work, and the sources of those so you understand them deeply and you can practice them, as well as product leadership. And then when you graduate, you're only going to have spent $26,000 approximately, as opposed to 4 or 5 times that with an MBA. And it's not that much more than the typical boot camp, but you'll have a master's degree from a top 20 public school, which is offering the online product management degree for working professionals. And our graduates go on to get jobs in product management, as well as leaderships levels in product management, oftentimes with a promotion. And one that you can see here is Anoop Chandapillai, and he actually started in an MBA program, but felt it wasn't applicable to him. And when he found the Master's in Product, he immediately thought this was a great degree. He just graduated, and I got a chance to congratulate him this year at commencement. And what he told me is that the difference was that we were teaching things he could use every day, and he could keep working as a product manager while doing the degree. So when you take this degree, you'll go on a transformation journey. We have 5 terms, which takes about 15 months if you want to take 2 classes per term. Of course, you can do it slower. If you don't have 20 hours a week to dedicate to school, you can do it in 30 months. But in this transformation journey, we're going to take you through all of the different steps that you need to really become a product leader, to see differently and turn problems into opportunities and figure out which problems are worth solving, to be able to think strategically about how to prioritize what to build and why you're building it, and to develop and influence those in the organization to deliver on those roadmaps, both discovery and delivery, and then to lead confidently at scale so that you can take the organization forward as a product organization that emphasizes being close to customers. One of those people who were promoted during the degree is Faith DeFreitas, and she was working at Concert AI when she got her promotion to director of product. And what she said is that this curriculum was meticulously designed and tailored to equip you with what you need to lead throughout the product lifecycle. So whether you're in an early stage company, or you're trying to go through the growth stages and rapidly deliver and get out to market, or if you're in a mature company and product space and you are looking to deepen your relationships with customers or optimize for operational excellence, in all cases, we teach you what you need to know so that you're prepared for the entire journey. And the result is that you join a community that is open and interested in being product people, real results, and they become real leaders. Our alumni are leading at top companies, just like Janina Mondragon, who graduated this year as well. And what she said is that as a product manager, this was a great step for her in her career. She was working at Microsoft, and everything that she did was applicable to her job. So you'll form relationships, you'll be able to learn from people at different stages in their career. And just like a good book, as you come back to the lessons that you gather during your time in this master's degree, every time you'll learn a little bit more. So with that, thank you so much for letting me talk to you a little bit about the Master's in Product Management. I now want to tell you a little bit about my friend, Damien Peters, who teaches in the degree. So Damien Peters and I met at Booz Allen Hamilton when both of us were at the beginning of our careers. And at that point, he was a software engineer, and a really good one. Soft-spoken, but when he had a point to make, and when he knew there was a better way of solving the problem, he was really clear about it. I really enjoyed talking with Damien. He's the kind of guy that gives you a different angle on almost every problem. And I have to admit that he always surprised me. Like the day that he showed up in a thick leather jacket, carrying a big helmet, and I was like, Damien, why are you dressed like that? Aren't you coming to work? He's like, I just came here on my bike. What bike? My motorcycle. I'm like, oh, okay. So you're an awesome coder and a biker and practically a ninja with your soft-spoken, influential ways. He's like a guy out of the Neil Stevenson novel. So I was like, okay, this is the guy I want to know. So we stayed in touch. We continued to be friends as he went on to MIT Sloan, and then to Silicon Valley, to Zynga, and to Meta, being a product manager. And I was watching as he was also building and launching these companies. And it's just so much great things I can talk about Damien. But the thing that I think was most impressive was when he chose to leave the Silicon Valley life to focus on his number one job as a dad, and then also to get a lot of cultural experience by going and living in Spain. And then he came back to the United States when the family was ready, and now he teaches people how to be product people and how to take on new skills. And we're all really lucky that he's decided to join us here. So I know we're all looking forward to hearing from him, and I will turn it over to Damien Peters to teach us all about how to be AI accelerated PMs.
Appreciate that, John. Absolutely no pressure. But I'm super excited to be in front of everybody. We've been really surprised by the interest in this topic. I thought a handful of PMs, primarily my friends, would be interested in this. And just taken aback by the response we've seen across the world at those who are interested in this topic. And I was going through those who haven't finished the survey yet. There's still a little bit of time, but I see that we have lawyers joining us. We have people joining us from around the world in many different places. So with that, I want to kick us off. And actually, this is for the workshop later, but it's to give everyone a little bit of a head start. And this URL goes to this URL. I'm going to put it in the chat. All right. This goes to a public GitHub repository that will be used later on for the workshop. So Today, I'll be talking about different areas of product management and where AI, I've been able to integrate AI, and I've seen and interviewed and talked with many others about where they've been able to do this and enhance their jobs. And then we're actually going to spend some time going through some prototyping. We're actually going to spend some time building a app together live. And of course, nothing can go wrong with that. So to kick it off, I want to hear and find out where everyone is from. So going to try this, and first time using this, but first time's always the charm. So you should be able to go ahead and log in now, and basically just put in your city, country. So for example, I'm joining from Silver Spring, Maryland. So Silver Spring, USA. I might say Washington, D.C., just to keep it simple. But yeah, I've seen folks register from South America, from Africa, from every continent except Antarctica. I see we have some Aussies. This is blowing up quicker than I thought. All right. I also want to see if I can pause this moving. All right, Washington, D.C. seems to be edging out. All right, let's see how this group by meaning. All right, Tel Aviv, Alexandria, Maryland, Mexico City, St. Pete's, Israel, Baltimore, Bethesda. We have a lot of individuals joining us from all over. And so the results that we're using from these surveys, also you should be able to ask questions now. Since we have a lot of individuals, what we'll do is allow voting, and we'll pick some of the best questions at the end. But yeah, it's great seeing where everyone's from. Personally, as was mentioned and talk a little bit later, I lived in Spain actually for 2 years. It was really interesting seeing how European product management and product teams work. So I'm going to go ahead and close the submissions right now, which should hopefully lock us down. All right, so as we see, Ottawa, Canada, Philadelphia, it's still reorganizing. Dunkirk, Calgary, Canada, Bulgaria, Germany, Greenville, Baltimore, Dubai, Barcelona, Bethesda. So a little bit of everyone from everywhere. So we're struggling to make this talk applicable to everybody, and hopefully everyone will get something out of it. All right, now we'll see how this word cloud works again. But what we're going to do is, the next question I have for everybody is, what is one thing you know AI can do for product people, for you, but you just don't know how to do it yet? And what I mean by that is, for example, I know that AI can answer my emails. It's not doing it for me. I know that there's tools out there. There's a robot that can walk around and hand me stuff. I don't know how to build that robot. So interested to hear what are the things people know exist and are interested to hear about. So save kids in Gaza, research, schedule plans, develop, automate, prototype, give me money. It's always a good one. Let's see how this grouping works. All right, prototyping, optimism, building MVP, planning, speed up, collaborate, Google Ads, write emails, building MVP, testing. All right, so as we can see, AI has this kind of limitless nature, right? There's this ability to do everything with it, but it's how do we figure out how to do it? Is it worth the investment? For example, I'd love to have a robot, but I don't think it's going to be worth me figuring out how to build it right now. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close the submissions. All right, and let's see kind of where we net out. Marketing's a good one. Create ideas, make people have money. App, FAQs, brainstorm, building MVPs, generate awesome ideas, parse input, content production, customer surveys, explain concept and ideas. Well, I'm happy to say we will cover a lot of these. It's got around 90 minutes, so it's not going to be all of these, but we'll be able to cover a lot of these today. The example I want to start with in terms of being able to use these AI tools to embed is that I actually personally love it when I can use my product learning and product understanding to improve my own life. It's nice when my wife gets to benefit from access to something that I have or some knowledge. I recently bought her a advanced ChatGPT account, and it was nice to be able to help her pick the models. But the other day we were planning a trip. We were planning to go to Panama, and so we were going to Panama for family vacation. And I'm a researcher. I watch a ton of YouTube videos. I pull together a bunch of resources and put them together, and I'll have like various documents and things like that and kind of ways to give to the family. But the truth is, they don't always get used or utilized. Oftentimes, I'm the only person interested in this. And so I said, can AI help me? And with that, I was able to put together this somewhat functioning, but it's a site that for me and my family to look at different options and things to do, includes different flights and weathers. But one of the nice things that I loved was that I was able to add a chatbot. This chatbot, it allows any information that's on the site to be asked about, to get some information. And as we continue to fill this out, this is a temporary version that's kind of out there, but as we continue to fill this out, we'll be able to ask questions, generate new itineraries, and do other interesting things during our trip. So I like that as a personal example of when you can create kind of anything or put things in the format that you want very quickly with AI and with these tools, the types of things that you can do. So a little bit about me, won't spend too much time on it, but I'm from Washington, D.C. area originally. I spent first 26 years of my life right around the Capitol. Went to University of Maryland undergrad, where I studied computer science and economics. Went into government consulting, where me and John were able to connect. And then decided that the government was not as innovative as the spaces I was told it was going to be, the US government that is, and decided to go to MIT for business school. That's when I really decided I wanted to go into tech. I knew I wanted to go out to the Bay Area, and that's when I discovered product management. I interned doing business development at Kayak. I did a product marketing internship. I interned at a venture capital firm in Brazil. But it was product management at Zynga that I found really was the calling for me. It took my technical skills. I hated coding, but I loved the things that we were able to build with the code. And so as a result, product management really was a great place. I came in with some technical understanding. I could speak with engineers, which they appreciated, and it allowed me to really craft and shape products. So one thing that I think that's really important about product and product roles is that's one of the most impactful roles, right? Because you literally are defining what is built. There's a PM that's saying, Facebook should exist, or there should be an algorithmic news feed, or kind of, what AI should look like. But on the same note, the product manager is not required. The engineers will continue to engineer without them. So it's something that's really important, and I always take with me in all my roles. So after Zynga, I went to TinyCo, a smaller competitor, 150-person Andreessen Horowitz-backed startup, where I was laid off after right before 1 year. Interesting working in startups in Silicon Valley, but that led me to join Meta back when it was called Facebook. It's still weird to call it Meta personally. My first team actually was a machine learning team back when it was really just called machine learning. There was no infrastructure for AI at Facebook, and it was a nascent technology, let's say. And I particularly was working on crowdsourcing data around location and places. And we used machine learning to correctly store and adjust data and information on the graph. Then moved on to work on some advertising and brand advertising, trying to compete with TV. My wife got pregnant and asked me if I was going to see the child, as I did work a lot. In her defense, I did. And so as a result, I decided to leave, and I started a startup because that's a great way to spend time with a child. And I joined a nonprofit at the time called Dove Color. Wealth Noir was a financial literacy company really focused on African American and people of color with high income levels and helping them build net worth and wealth. I started as I was able to move to Spain. I like to say that I moved to Spain to really, lean in and be with my family and experience a new culture. Yo hablo español ahora, es muy bien. But I worked on Wealth Noir while in Spain. I also had the time to join as Chief Product Officer at Chameleon and help them pivot from a social media app for teenagers to a enterprise level video app during COVID. COVID in Spain was not fun. I lived in Valencia, Spain. I was there for 2 years. When I came back to the States, I joined City Ventures as a entrepreneur in residence and really working on internal innovation at the firm. Then randomly, I got a DM on LinkedIn from an old friend. We had started at Facebook together. He told me they had raised several $1 million and that they were looking for someone to come and lead product. That led to Wealth Noir's acquisition in 2022. Which was a great experience for me to come in as employee number 8 to Savvy Wealth. But wife got pregnant again, decided that wanted kind of a little bit of change. So with that, decided to start WNCP AI, my boutique AI consulting firm, where we really give talks like this. We help venture capitalists and private equity firms help work with their portfolio companies when it comes to bringing AI, either from a product strategy standpoint or from integrating it into their teams. I also work with nonprofits, including Management Leadership for Tomorrow as a startup ecosystem advisor and work at University of Maryland. It's been very interesting being a professor now because I'm a practitioner. And so to now think more holistically is great to see aspects of product management that I just did not get to experience while doing it myself. So I like to say that product management is kind of like mining for gold. When you're mining for gold, you have a large amount of dirt, right? You have an entire mountain essentially, and you're sitting there sifting through it. And you're looking for small specks and small sparkles. And then those small specks and sparkles themselves they're cool, but what actually we do is that we turn them into jewelry. And it's a similar process that we oftentimes go through in product management, right? We're doing research, we're sifting through market data or user feedback, we're talking to people, we're watching all the YouTube videos, kind of getting a marketing insight. We're digging for insights. We're trying to figure out pain points from the user, jobs to be done, unmet needs. We then take those insights and build them out into full pain points. So gaps for the users that we can fill. And then by building solutions, by building products, we deliver user delight. So we go from dirt to user delight, just as if you were mining for gold. Now, there are 2 types of product people when it comes to mining for gold. Both extremely important and doing extremely great work, but different in how they approach it. So coming from big tech, I'm more accustomed to the high risk, high reward. I was once told that I couldn't work on a travel app because that 5% of the global population traveled, and that was too small of a market for us to go after. So we're looking for big bets, and as a result, you're looking for almost like diamonds in in your gold field, right? You're looking for these huge outsized impacts, you're looking for billion-dollar opportunities. And then you have a lot of product managers who are working on teams and where we don't have the luxury of blowing things up. If you work for NASA, if you work on transportation, if you're working to get things that people rely on, if you work in health tech, please don't look for high risk, high reward. We have enough Thanos stories. So that on-time delivery and excellence. So consistency, being able to execute reliably, understanding the flow of your team and that execution is really important. Whereas in the high risk, high reward, you may be wrong 9 times out of 10, but as long as the 110 is a $1 billion opportunity, it works out. And as a result, AI impacts both of these product managers differently. Their needs are different, but at the core, they're still looking to find these nuggets around their users or stakeholders and build them into solutions. Now, why does AI matter now? I'll say age, and in my 40s, early 40s, not too old, but I've seen these revolutions before. My father was really into computers, and he sent me to computer camp. I was building computers in high school. I saw from an early age, I grew up with computers, but kind of the change. I honestly don't understand how someone could do a spreadsheet on paper. Like, it's impossible to me. I can't imagine that. Then the internet. I had a BlackBerry phone, and when the internet became on the phone, and when Facebook launched while I was in college. I was in college when it finally hit my school. So the internet, and it fundamentally shifted everything that we did. Then came along mobile. So I had a chance to work on Microsoft's intern at Microsoft on their mobile devices division as a engineer. And I remember when the iPhone launched and I had my Windows smartphone, I was like, this is BS. Like, the smartphones have been around for a while, but mobile changed everything. And what I like to say is that for anyone who remembers BlackBerries, these phones with very limited internet, and it was great because you didn't have to use SMS, I would not have guessed that the BlackBerry would have led to nearly every single person in the world waking up and going to sleep with the phone being the last thing that they touch. We set our alarms on the phone. Phones single-handedly ruined the portable GPS market. And so AI is bringing that same level of shift. Now, a key thing, which I will say, shocks me at times, is that people are afraid of AI. They think it's going to take our jobs. But the truth is, computers didn't reduce the number of jobs. There were more jobs. The truth is, there are more people on Earth now than there were last year and then the year before. We have not met our demand when it comes to the amount of productivity that we can consume, especially if you're in the US. So the truth is, with these revolutions, we just get new jobs, you get a cycling of the market, and what you'll get is that the status quo will change and move. So it's really important right now to understand that this is a shift, this is coming along, and how to get ahead of the wave. Now, I want to do another quick poll. So I mentioned that there's two types of product individuals. We have the high risk, high reward, right? The Facebooker, the startup, the venture capital. Give me, $20 million of runway and let me get you a $20 billion company. But then we have the people that are there ensuring that my keyboard works and that this computer doesn't blow up on me. Actually, computer's my phone, the high risk, high reward. That my car doesn't shut down, that Apple CarPlay works when I go in my car and things like that. So I really want to understand where people are coming from. And while people answer, I'll talk a little bit more about kind of the difference in what you're looking for. So for that high risk, high reward, product market fit, the lean startup, getting to that big opportunity, a validated business model is the most important thing. So therefore, you're looking to use AI to sift very, very quickly, right? You're throwing away all the small nuggets and you're looking for diamonds. Now, when it comes to on-time delivery and excellence, you're looking for execution. You want executional excellence. You want to be able to meet your stakeholders' needs with less effort, to have on-time delivery, and to ensure that your users are getting the value that you promise to them, whether it's a billion-dollar opportunity or not. So really appreciate everybody answering that. So I see that a lot of people fall into a mix of both, which is very common and very good, right? The traditional model at Facebook was around, I think, 10% were moonshots, around 20% had a relatively low. So moonshot, 1-ish a million shot chance of hitting, 20-ish% approximately, maybe 30-ish percent chance of hitting. And then the rest were generally improvements or updates. All right, now we're gonna try one more word cloud. And this one is, I'm intrigued, sorry, this isn't a word cloud. This is a poll. So we talked a little bit before about there's some AI stuff that a lot of us know that we want to do or that we could do, but we can't get to it. And so I'm really interested in what's stopping people. One thing that I've found really interesting personally is that I'm no longer an engineer. I hung up my hardcore engineering hat. It's like decades ago. And even now, I say I'm more of a professor and I'm more of a consultant, but a lot of my friends in industry still aren't using AI tools. I've talked to individuals at big companies, and it's not like widely adopted where everyone is using Cursor or Microsoft Copilot or GitHub. Even in Silicon Valley, I have a friend who has a AI-based startup and talked about how hard it can be to meet other AI engineers. So it's hard, and we'll talk a little bit about ways to get through that, but really want to understand. And so number one, I wouldn't have guessed maybe it was this big, but by a very large margin, it is not knowing which tool to use. And so tool confusion, I'll be honest, since we announced this talk, there have been some 30 to 40 odd launches. There's an entire category of products that exist that did not exist when we originally envisioned this talk, which is the GitHub repository-based tools such as Jules and GitHub Codex. So we'll talk about that and kind of ways to kind of get through that. All right. So why do smart people struggle with AI, right? Many of us are industry leaders, talk to CEOs, I've talked to high quality engineers, and many struggle with various aspects. And so a couple of things that we see when we talk to people, one is this one-shot fallacy. The one-shot fallacy is this belief that I just tell the AI to do it, and it does it. One shot means there's just one prompt, one example, and it can fix everything. This has improved even in the last week and a half with some of the super agents. Manus just made the announcement that it can do video, so you can actually give it a prompt and it can create an entire scene of movies for you with sound. But a lot of people I've heard are always dissatisfied because they ask AI to do something and then they're shocked that it didn't do everything. Tool overload, as we just saw. So there's just too many tools. There's 18 different tool finder apps that each have their own LLM that power the search to help you find these tools. Another one is just technical enough. I have found that an API key is oftentimes a differentiator between someone who's tech-ish and someone who's an ex-engineer. So tools that typically require you to have an API key or self-host, as it's called, can be a burden, but a lot of the tools require that early level of understanding. And then the last thing is the craft of product. So people demand too much from AI. I think there's this belief that AI will come in and automate the job. I will put the AI into Slack. It will poll everybody, it will put together my PRDs, and it will ship everything out for me. But that's not true. Product requires craft and a level of taste. You have to not just look at the data of your users, you need to understand your users. There's the famous quote, Henry Ford said that if he had asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. Product managers need to have a forward-looking vision. They need to be reactionary. The truth is things change every 5 minutes, so it's very hard for AI to actually react as much as you would think, and in those sort of ways. So craft plus framework is how I've approached, and a framework came with that. You can think about the different components of product and product development. Think about where tools can go into it, and I'll go ahead and drop some of my favorite tools. Also, there'll be a downloadable that everyone will have access to. We'll be sending out an email shortly after, and in that downloadable, you will see my picks and kind of my craft plus stack and what I use. So there's 6 components to the craft plus framework. We'll talk about the last one at the end. So first we have capture and collate. And this is where we're going to get the data and information that we're going to feed and give context to our LLM. If anyone who has really dug and played around with AI, context is everything. That's from the system prompt, it's from the documents that are available, it's from the examples that you use in your prompt. And so having information in the right format, stored in a way that we can use it, is extremely important. Refactor and refine. So even though we capture all this information, it can be noisy. Some simple things, if you download HTML can be very noisy. It can confuse the LLM. So cleaning it into a markdown file. One thing I do with very large files is I will try and do a summary at the beginning, and this has to do with how the LLMs access the information. Basically, it pulls snippets. So if I give it a summary, it can pull the entire summary in a snippet, whereas it may be hard to pull enough snippets from like a very long text. Analyze and articulate. So now that we have our data in the correct format and we have kind of our tools chosen, we really want to dig in and start to pull out these insights. One thing I love doing is taking large number of user transcripts from user interviews and start looking for the common threads. Start seeing what someone mentioned 5 times. What was the words that kept coming up? What were the flows that people kept repeating? And use those to pull out those insights and find those nuggets that we're digging for. Formulate and fabricate, that's the fun part. That is where we get to yell at the AI and have it build stuff for us, and then it will build it and it'll be buggy, and then we'll tell it to fix it, and then it'll try to fix it. We'll have a lot of fun with it, but it's amazing the stuff that you can build now, even for personal use. And the tools and platforms that actually are coming out there to productionalize this for our enterprise. And then the last is test and transcend. Test and transcend means that great that you've created this thing, great that you've gotten these insights, but you need to get it out to people. You need to send these links out to your beta testers, your users, the rest of your team, and get it into people's hands. So let's start with the capture and collate. When we capturing and we're collating information, we're actually starting with our questions. So a lot of people want to start with, where do I get great sources? Where do I get great data? What are the questions you're actually trying to answer? So the app that we're going to be building today, for anyone who's been playing around the GitHub repository, actually, I will briefly, if I can go back, just show that. So for anyone who's joined, we'll be doing a workshop later. This is a link to a public GitHub repository that has a few set of instructions in terms of getting either a Google Gemini key, setting yourself up with Lovable, or Firebase Studio. All right. So in the capture and collate, we're asking these target questions. So we're going to be working on a LinkedIn, a resume optimizer. We're going to be able to post in our data from LinkedIn. We're going to be able to post in a job description. It will generate a optimized resume for us. So what are the questions that we want to answer, right? Who is the person that so we want to know about job seekers, right? We want to know what are their challenges with resumes? What are the resume formats that need to be submitted? What are companies looking for? Trustworthy sources. There's a lot of stuff on the internet, especially with AI. There's a lot of AI slop. So finding sources that you can trust and that will provide good information. Adapt your collection strategy. So as you go through, many a times I've approached something, for example, this talk. I wanted to find a bunch of stuff on specifically recruiters and job seekers. There are talks of AI skills being required, but there actually isn't that much on this unique specific area. So what I ended up doing was finding a lot of information about recruiting in general and product management and the skills being required. I looked a lot at AI in this application in the workspace, and I was able to bring those together and start to pull together some insights based on that. Storing AI-friendly formats. So Markdown by far is the most AI-friendly format. Some important things to note is that PDFs in particular can be tricky. There are 2 ways PDFs are stored. Essentially, there's an image that's just kind of in the PDF, or there's actual text. Some systems are better than others, but long story short, if you have a lot of PDFs that are in this kind of image, the AI may completely not read it. And one way around that is to actually convert it into a PNG file. The other thing too is you can use LLMs to convert the text for you. I have oftentimes needed a picture convert it into a text. So I will give it to ChatGPT, tell it to explain this into detailed text. And there's something called Mermaid, which is a diagramming text format that AI and LLMs know. So Obsidian is a tool that I use. It is can be a bit hardcore, but it's like Notion, but the key thing is that all of the text that you store is stored on your computer as markdown files. So right now I have this syncing with both GitHub along in a private repository, along with my Google Drive. And so any LLM, it's like, crap, I need this thing to understand about this talk I'm giving at Maryland. Cool. Let me just go and grab my one-pager file that I set up and give it all the context it needs. So Obsidian, one thing too is it allows for tagging. So there's a folder structure where you can also tag things. So for example, in this talk, I'm going to have some documents around different tools such as Obsidian. Obsidian isn't uniquely tied to this talk. It's a general tool around in this stage, in the C stage of the craft framework. So being able to tag that as such is really useful. If those who use Notion, Notion is a kind of PKIM, Personal Knowledge Information Management System, or second brain. If you go deep into YouTube, you'll find a lot about this. But Obsidian is one format. Google Drive works really, really well. Google Drive is number 2. I would say even I use Google Drive because almost every LLM has a direct connector into Google Drive. But markdowns and tagging. An example of this in use is a user research project. So I'm gonna kick up the speed, but you have a bunch of user interviews, you have a bunch of competitors, you scraped all these pages, you have industry reports, which are hundreds of pages. Personally for this, I love using Notebook LM, which we'll talk about in a little bit to pull these insights, but in this craft and collect, we're pulling all this information together. In the refactor and refine stage, this is where, as I mentioned, we're getting the information, we're putting it into the right format and structure so that we can action on it. What this might look like, for example, is we took all those reports before, we may clean them up into Markdown, we may find that one of those industry reports isn't that useful, we may create summaries either at top of those files or in separate files so that the LLM can both reference the summaries along with the full-on text and store them together. So another area here too I'll do is start to combine sources. So for example, I may put all of the source documents into Google LLM, have it generate mind maps or other reports. For example, you can generate podcasts, which are very useful to listen to long information on the go. All right, so Notebook LM is my tool of choice here. Notebook LM is a Google product. The reason that it's really good is that it handles large data and various data really, really well, and it pulls from YouTube. YouTube transcripts are really useful, especially long ones, because transcripts people are talking, and LMs are great because it will find threads, it will group things together, and it can find, so you can have a news article, a bunch of people talking on YouTube about their experience, and then pull insights together. All right, now when we move into analyze and articulate, this is where we are actually pulling the data together and actually trying to start to get some information. For example, I don't know if I have a copy of it, but the survey results, I was able to take the survey results, hand it to Gemini. I also gave it to Claude and said, pull up some interesting insights. It told me about where people were from. It told me what were the pain points and what was interesting. So that ability to visually storytell, communicate to execs, and then find those insights and amplify it in the analyze. And so this is just another representation of kind of the process to walk through, starting from your learning objectives and getting down to finding those user insights. Claude Projects is one of my favorite tools here. There are some harder core tools. Anything LM, for example, is one, but I find that Claude Projects, Claude, especially with the Opus 4 update, really does some great stuff with analyzing data and information. All right, formulate and fabricate. I'm gonna roll through this because this is what we're gonna spend most of the time in the workshop. So this is where we actually get to create prototypes, where we get to bring to the LLM our idea. So in the analyze and articulate phase, that's where we're trying to come up with ideas from these insights. This is where we're moving into taking these insights, these pain points, and actually thinking about product solutions and ways to build them. The best way, there's some tools, for example, Chat PRD, where you can create a product requirements document using a format. You can do this in Claude and themselves, but basically you want to take your idea, you want to flesh it out into a feature requirement document, and then you want to give it to the LLM to build. My favorite tool right now is v0.dev. And this is primarily for the UI. It is relatively easy to create front-end UI. We're not using it today, but it struggles at times a little bit with the back end. It can get quite expensive too, just how their model works, but by far the best looking front end work. Lovable.dev is what we'll be using today. So Lovable I like because it is really good at full stack. I actually went through the project that we're working on today, and Lovable was the most consistent in terms of actually getting it to fully work and having a reasonable looking UI. Test and transcend, this is all about getting it out to people so that they can test it, getting some feedback on what people like and what works well. I like Vercel for this. So Vercel is tied with v0. v0 is a product made by the company Vercel. Vercel invented this framework called Next.js. It's not super important, but their platform is really good when it comes to allowing you to launch multiple versions. So you can have a test version, the live version, basically creates a new version every time you commit code, which is a thing, but basically it allows you to have a lot of different links, a lot of different versions and get it out to people. They also have analytics built in. The last, the plus is for people and processes. So the thing about the Craft Plus framework, and the reason I use Craft Plus is because it really is around how AI is advancing the craft of product. And so the last P is to remember the people and the processes and where this comes into play for improving work amongst your team and the human beings that you work with. We have automation, so there are ways to connect different flows together. So on Friday, pull together all the Slack comments and put out a team report. We have agents that can be coding agents, but they can do things in the background. For example, they can just always be pulling up market data and bringing you new things. And then we have tools, and the tools that we showed around are like Claude and things that you hop in and you physically use that are AI. So when we kind of think about it, we have the current state and thinking about where the team is, and then we have where we get to the scaled impact. And so the people and processes is really around how we get the change management. One tool that comes up, this is really across the board, but on the people and processes are super agents. So Manus and GenSpark AI. These are bots that tie in a ton of different tools altogether. So for example, GenSpark has a calling agent. They have a research agent. It can do AI slides for you. This is the closest you'll get to that one shot. So I have had it do research for my company on government grants that we could apply to. I give it a bunch of information about my company, and it will open up a browser. It will start browsing for you. I've had it do brand guides and executive research and things along those lines. Manus and GenSpark, slightly different approaches, but some interesting stuff in the super agent world. All right, I'm going to post this screen up to start collecting questions, I believe. All right. I believe we have questions going on. All right, cool. So one, everyone should already have access to these questions and if you want to go in and vote up any of the questions here, we'll be getting back to them in just a little bit. But I actually did want to take a small chance to have John come back on and share a little bit about the school and program, and then we'll be moving into the workshop portion. So here we have the questions, and Sorry, these are spread out. All right. So this is the GitHub public repository. For anyone who hasn't gotten access to that, I'll be putting links in a second. And then the last one is for the questions. And I'll hop back on in a little bit. Take it away, John.
Awesome. Thanks, Damien. Appreciate it. What a fantastic presentation that was. I'm going to go ahead and provide us some midpoint entertainment. So, as you all prepare to walk through the demo here with and actually build with Damien, we're going to take a little commercial break. For those of you who have been around long enough to see a screen like this, hopefully it's nostalgic. The first commercial, and I feel like this was more and more my job, is just to let people know about great things that are happening, is the Maryland Product Symposium. We're doing it again. We had one in November. It was fantastic. We had amazing speaker lineups. And now on October 16th, we're going to have another one. And you can join live or you can join in person. And so we are building the program now. A lot of it is going to continue to extend what you're learning about here. And we're going to be listening to what you're saying inside of these surveys. So keep it coming. But you can pre-register now. And when you pre-register, you get access to the recordings from November, of which I'm going to show you one of the moments from our opening keynote, Michael Rayner. He gave a fantastic presentation on innovation and how to understand the different ways that one can innovate. So let's go ahead and listen to his explanation about the options for innovation in the productive frontier.
Now, what that rather extended
Oops, sorry about that. And here we go.
disquisition gives us is a vocabulary for talking about the innovation journey, for talking about pathways that integrate both the excitement of exploration and the predictability of navigation. It begins by understanding where you are in competitive space today. What markets can you serve? What trade-offs are you exploiting? We define our destination in terms of where in cost performance space we want to be. What markets do we want to serve? What performance profiles and what cost positions do they need from us? And that defines the gap we need to cross. And so now I want to unpack at least 3 different pathways that can get us from here to there. Do you go through that frontier? Do you go straight to the destination you seek? Do you go over the top? Or do you come up from underneath? Over, under, or through? Let's take a look at each of those in turn. We'll begin with going through that frontier, and this is a process of what I'll refer to as diffusion, and this is where the customers come to you. I want you to think about the ground transport industry. In the high end, right, we've got limousines with uniformed drivers that you book in advance. We've got taxis that you can hail or book with somewhat predictable fares, and we had public transit, which was cheap, but somewhat inflexible. So we've got our classic high, middle of the market, and low end positions, and each of these competed with each other, but more on the basis of differentiation rather than anybody actually innovating and expanding their frontiers. Well, who broke the rules in the ground transport business? I'm sure everybody here could guess immediately. And it, of course, is Uber. And what Uber did is they went through that frontier. They came up with a solution built on a different set of technologies, organizational processes, and business models that allowed them to reach that position in cost performance space in one giant leap. They broke all the relevant trade-offs around cost, availability, quality, and convenience. And then from there, it's been basically incremental refinements ever since. The good folks at Uber would, I'm sure, disagree with me pretty vehemently. But when I think about my very first Uber ride and the one that I took to get to the airport in Toronto, I really can't tell the difference. And it's been almost 15 years, right? They crushed it right out of the, that's not a criticism. They crushed it right out of the gate. And the rest of the time has basically been all of us adapting our behavior to the solution that Uber provided. Instead of hailing cabs, you call them on your phone. Instead of booking particular cabs, you rely on a plentiful supply in order for someone who's nearby to show up magically, right? A very particular approach that solved the problems all at once.
So that's just a little sample of what is to be had. Oops, let's go back to full screen mode. And so feel free, if you want to see more of that, you can go ahead and scan this, save it for later. We don't want you to leave here, obviously. We've got wonderful things to offer you, but just to know that this is coming up. The next symposium is coming, and you can watch all the recordings from the last one totally free just because we want to share it with you. Now, let's talk about another great product that we've put out into the market that we hope that you all will take advantage of, and that's just our website. We launched product.umd.edu as a place to provide free resources for product managers in an open manner. Again, we really are trying to take a different approach to this, where we believe that products should be open to everyone who wants to see, think, and act differently and lead confidently as product managers. And it's not just for those people who are blessed by some leadership over in big tech. It's for everyone who wants to learn these skills. So we've tried to provide those resources here. You can go to our website. I also provided a QR code, but it's easy to remember, product.umd.edu. And there you'll be able to find webinars like this one. The top of our webinar page under resources, where there's a little drop down, you'll immediately see an ability to sign up for this series, and you'll be able to check out some of our past webinars. I'm now going to play a little clip from a webinar that I gave a year ago on the product operating model. Heads up, it has a hard cut, but that's just for time. So let's take a listen. Welcome, everyone, and let's go ahead and get started. We got plenty to cover. So the product operating model is a relatively new concept championed by Marty Kagan and many others in the field. His latest book, Transformed, really does a great job of outlining the principles of the model, although it doesn't always give you all the details about how to go about executing those, because he himself is very much against prescriptive processes. However, you can get lots of examples of how to run effectively in the product operating model in this presentation, as well as through others who offer some guidance that you would normally get from a very expensive product coach. The goal of the model is to transform how you build, how you solve problems, and how do you choose which problems to solve. So we're working backwards from delivering to the customer. And the roots of this really exist inside of design thinking and lean startup. And it is a way of integrating those approaches to a full extent, as well as, of course, agile. So there are many different models by which technology interacts with other parts of the business. One of the big differences between the product operating model and other models is the fact that in the product operating model, we have a direct connection between those who are defining the product and the customers. But in other models, we see different emphases in terms of how technology enables the business to succeed. In the end, what we want is a team that can go through each one of these stages, where based upon strategic objectives developed based upon business strategy, we go through continuous customer discovery, product discovery, and product delivery, where we are solving for key problems of, is this a problem we're solving? How do we solve that problem effectively? And then how do we build in a way that's scalable, reliable, and performant? And while this might look a little bit waterfally, it's not. It is actually a continuous set of processes that are informing each other, and they are running in parallel. These are the techniques that you can expect to use in each one of these: concierge, keys, and interviews for figuring out what problem is worth solving and exploring that. We're going to talk a little bit more about the details of discovery. Also, high fidelity prototyping for testing out value and usability. Also, viability can be tested this way as well. And then feasibility, you'll use high fidelity prototypes as well as other architectural spikes. And then for product delivery, we'll talk about this in our next webinar, where we're going to get into the details of how do you do featureful releases at scale on cadence to achieve these goals of all the ILIDs: performance, maintainability, reliability, scalability. So we'll get there. But today we're going to focus mostly on those aspects that lead up to that delivery. Okay. Always good to stop with my mouth open. All right. And then the last one is, as we are wrapping up our commercial break, we just wanted to bring you back to the degree and let you hear from one of our graduates. She has a wonderful story to tell. This is Sina Siddiqui, and this will wrap up our commercial break. So mic check, Damien. You will be up in just 1 minute. Thank you all for giving us this time, and hopefully you're getting ready to do some vibe code.
My name is Sina Siddiqui. I am graduating as part of the Spring 2025 group with the Product Management Masters. Very exciting stuff. I was already planning on transitioning from design, UX design into product management. I had gotten the role changed, but I was getting a little nervous, it's a new space for me. There's a lot of leadership. There's a lot of different moving parts that you have to be aware of. So I was getting nervous with how am I going to do that without any experience? So this program was perfect because it was just like a short, 15 months is still long, but it's a relatively short time, get up to speed with all the things a product manager needs to know, from finance to design to the basics of DevOps. And it was really just all of that in one place. So it was a perfect fit for me, yeah. I thought the work-life balance was pretty solid. There were some weeks where things got a little crazy, where I think a lot of stuff was happening at work. But the good thing was the instructors were pretty understanding. I would just message them, be like, hey, lots going on. Most of them were like, okay, you have a little bit of more time. That's okay. Everyone's really understanding. The courses were flexible. The exams were flexible. I appreciated it. It was definitely built for working people in mind. So kudos to you guys for putting a great program together. I think I already knew that there were so many different parts of it and they were all extremely important. But I will say that it allowed me to feel more confident in the areas that are relatively new to me, right? Like the strategic development, life cycle, the agile scrum elements. That was definitely a really great thing to have in my toolkit. I knew its importance already, but it's great to know that product managers are really at the heart of all things product, and it's important to know about all of these things just as it is to lead a team forward. Now that I've taken this program, I feel like I'm more confident to step into maybe a more senior role. I would love to be a director of product in the future, and I think all of these skills are wonderful for that. So fingers crossed that I get what I'm looking for, but I'm looking forward to the future for sure.
Hooray! What a wonderful person, and now alumni of the program. Damien, back over to you.
All right. Okay, bueno. And so to kick off the next phase of our program. All right. So thank you, John, for that. I'm biased, obviously, because I teach at the school and I went to the school for undergrad, but I like the program. And I've heard some of the faculty is pretty cool. So one thing I just want to say is that start today, pick a tool. Don't overthink it. Pick something. If something resonates, try it. Try capturing some notes with Obsidian. Go into Claude, create a project, throw some files into it, and try playing around with it. Notebook LM, or go to v0.dev and start playing around. A little bit more. All right, sorry. So just in terms of WNCP AI and kind of what I do now, one thing that I found super interesting was that Gary Tan, so the Y Combinator CEO, one of the more prolific accelerators, Airbnb came out of it. Maybe not Uber, Coinbase. But anyways, he talked about how many of their startups are building code and basically how they can go way further now by understanding these AI tools as opposed to before. So this is to give you the sense that this is really happening, and the companies that are on the forefront of this that start in the AI era are getting a huge benefit. We think about all those problems that especially founders have when it comes to implementing, let alone AI for themselves personally as exec, but across their company, and how to get their employees to think about it or to use it. So we use kind of the Craft Plus framework and this kind of approach to really think about how to get AI to be impactful. If anyone's interested in following up specifically around our training and workshops, or either from an advisory standpoint around due diligence, if you're investing in an AI company, or other aspects, feel free to reach out, WNCP.ai. All right, now to get to the vibe coding section of the talk. Actually, I should have done a quick poll on this. Well, actually, yeah, let me do a few questions. I'll do kind of some of them intermittently. We'll probably have a few times while the AI is coding. So we'll start with Shahbaz. The number one upvoted question is, can I train itself later on? The answer is yes. So one reason that it is important to understand who you're sending your data to is because we're at a point where, in theory, in the future, anything that was ever logged anywhere could be used, right? There's things such as we'll talk about when you're using your API keys and things like that, that if it is exposed once into GitHub ever, in theory, GitHub will always have that access to it. There are apparently people who go through public repositories just looking for these keys. So the truth is that as the context windows grow and as data is very cheap to store, that data can be used later on to be fed back into a new model to train. And several of the models are being built with self-training, kind of self-learning capabilities. It's amazing, and I'll be honest, scary at the same time. If anyone had heard, I think there was a Claude model that, one, it will lie. If it's put into a corner, if it thinks it needs to lie to get you to do something, it will lie. And there's been even talks that the thinking thread is just made up, and that the LLM just puts it out there because it was trained that people want to see it. So it's not thinking. So there's a lot of interesting things that we're understanding. All right, how do you decide which tool is best for the task at hand? This is, inherently the problem, right? There's too many tools. LLMs do help. So you can actually ask, and Perplexity is a good tool, one with a search, and say, like, is there a tool? I commonly do that. Ask, is there an MCP tool? Is there a way to manage these things? And there will be a lot of talk out there. I can't remember off the top of my head. There are a few sites and newsletters, including the soon-to-be relaunched Pragmatic AI newsletter. So pragmaticpeters.com is my current newsletter, but we are relaunching it and showing professionals and real ways to use AI. For example, creating a vacation site for your family. But newsletters, communities are some good ways, but again, there are a lot of tools. And I'll stick with this one and then move on. How do you ensure consistency between tools? The best way is to use a tool that allows you to work between all the different tools. And if that doesn't fully make sense, let's see if we can find the slide real quick. For example, internally, we use a tool called Open Web UI. So this, for example, is our internal AI. Everyone in the company can log into it. They have accounts. They have access to different models. Behind the scenes, this WNCP marketing, it is given custom instructions. It has data and documents about the company, including a branding guide, and everyone has access to it. So basically, if you're writing marketing copy, we are using a shared team model. If there's updates to the brand, I'm updating it once, and everyone is seeing it in their shared team model phase. So these type of tools, anything LM is another one, but there are some tools. There are also some hosted ones, Chat LLM. Also, if you get the team or enterprise plans in ChatGPT or Claude, you can create these projects across the entire team. But the main thing is that you want to standardize them. Early on, we used to use custom GPTs and then just share them across our team. So we would create a custom GPT for something and then do it that way. So projects and custom. N8N, I'll hop on this one real quick. I love N8N. N8N, it's a learning curve. There's Zapier, where I describe it. A lot of people have heard of Zapier. You can connect random things together. Zapier is doing some really interesting things in allowing your LLMs to just kind of talk to everything for you. N8N, though, is the platform that we have standardized on as a company, but it is a more advanced version of Zapier, and you can put in custom code. So it allows you to do, it's called a low-code platform for AI automations, and it falls into the agent and the automation case of the people plus processes. All right, going to start running on this quicker as I spent a lot of time talking. All right, there are going to be 3 options today when it comes to vibe coding. And I did this because vibe, stuff can be expensive. And I sent out a message before the talk, and there should be some instructions here. I'll be honest, some of this was AI generated and not fully proofread, but I trust my models. So we have 3 options. One is you can use Google Gemini. So just gemini.google.com. They've added in a lot of features where you can actually do some reasonable vibe coding with this. This is going to be the easiest path forward for anyone here. You can get it done in almost 1 prompt, but it's very limited. You can't share it. You can't store it. It will essentially give you 1 HTML file. It's just very limited, but it is by far the easiest. The free complex option is going to be Firebase Studio. So Google released Firebase Studio. Think of it as a web version of Cursor or Windsurf, for those who know what those are. Try and get into that a little bit later. But basically, it's free. So that's one thing here. It will allow you to do everything for free. It is a little bit complicated. It does, it gets a little bit finicky. But if you're looking for a free full option, that is it. Now, the tool that I will be focused on today and that I recommend, it is paid after 5 messages, so it's a relatively short period that you get to use it for free, but is Lovable. And Lovable, again, is going to give the highest probability of creating a full working app that you can actually launch and give to somebody today. All right. With that being said, so we have this README. Now, if you look in this, so I'm in GitHub now, and GitHub is a online repository for code. You can create repositories here, and it is very important to understand Git. All of the tools connect with it, but basically, as you're coding, what happens is, especially with the LLM, you tell it to do something, it goes off the rails, right? It just starts doing all kinds of things. Git allows you to roll back, and also it's really great if you're working with other engineers. All right, so these MD files, going back to our markdown files, and this is what they're rendered. The actual code, the raw file, looks like this. But again, LLMs love this format. GitHub loves this format. It is a text format that can be richly formatted. So what we have here is a product requirements document. The app that we're going to build today is going to be it is a LinkedIn optimizer. And so pulling up, just the more elaborate version for everyone to see. All right. That looks not. All right, so this is, our version is going to be a little bit simpler, but this is the AI resume builder. You can sign in. So this more elaborate version uses a backend database system called Supabase in order to store and save. Yeah, this button's been wonky. But if we go to this dashboard here, what I can do is I can paste in my LinkedIn profile content. I forgot about that. Well, so if you want to do this yourself, copy your LinkedIn profile content. The easiest way is if you export the PDF and copy the entire PDF. It's an annoying thing with LinkedIn, but the alternative is you can copy your separate sections. And then I happen to have a job description that seemed interesting to me. This was for an AI advisor for a stealth startup. We then have these 4 selectors in terms of the experience level, technical depth, role focus, and then we want to hit this generate AI optimized resume. Live demo time. So booyah. So it has formatted my resume based on the job description given and formatted it here. And I can now copy or print this. There's a settings tab in this one. There's my API key. I can fetch the latest models and then choose which model I want to use. This is the system prompt. So I mentioned the system prompt. Think of it as the instructions you give the AI to think about behind the scenes. And then for those who are deep into it, there's temperature and max tokens. Tokens is a subset of words, kind of, but it just determines how much text they will output. And temperature essentially determines the creativity of the LLM versus the straightforward nature of it. And I'll be checking questions while I talk. So if folks have questions, if folks have questions while I'm talking, I will be able to go back to that. Cool. From time to time. All right. So what you'll see here is this product requirements doc. This defines what the product is. So who our persona that we're targeting, the functional requirements, the resume generation. We have a tech stack document, and this tech stack document explains the technology that is going to be used. The fact that there's no backend, I simplified this, some example codes and things like that. We have what I created, the Vibe Coder Guide. So this, especially if you're going to take some time off to yourself, these are some of the prompts that you can use to get started with your Vibe coding and some tips and structures around there. And then this is a prompt. We'll see how we use this later, but this is the front end all in one prompt that we can give to the AI. And if you want to see this front end broken out in more code, there's actually this wireframe code, which itself is its own mini project, which just has a front of the wireframe. And to look at a picture of this wireframe, there's both a PDF and a PNG. So this is, let's see if the PNG looks a little bit better. All right, so this is an example of the simplified version that we'll be building today. As you can see, it condenses everything into one page. There's a sign out button, but we're actually not going to implement any authentication. This version doesn't require Supabase or a backend, but you'll be able to post in your LinkedIn profile as structured content, job description, change the settings, and you can always change these and tell the AI to make these whatever you want. You'll hit the button. It will generate this resume, allow you to copy it. It will store some history, and then we can change the core prompt or play around with these settings or completely ignore them if we so desire. And I'll go through how I created all of these a little bit in the end, but since we're a little short for time. So if you're going to go, I'm going to kick these all off at the same time, and you can choose your preference, or you can do all three if you're interested. And we'll get started that way. So what we're going to do first with Gemini is we're going to add the files. So ideally download the files to your computer. You can also copy and paste the entirety of the file there, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. And the only reason is it's better for it to have them as separate files as opposed to all in the context. All right. So this is the repository. And anyone who's comfortable with GitHub, you can go ahead and clone or download the repository. So what I want to do is I want to include this tech stack, this product requirements document. I'm going to go ahead and actually add the PNG and this wireframe. Actually, yeah, we'll leave the wireframe prompt code in there too. Now, what I'm actually going to do now is take this wireframe prompt code, So as we see, this is in the docs, wireframe prompt code.md, and we're going to copy the raw file. And then what we're simply going to say is create the front and run this blog-based resume generation. It will have the PRD and all right, and then I'm going to paste. Can't fully appreciate how long that prompt is, but essentially it is pasting tons and tons of code and a little bit of instructions on how to do it. So we're going to just kick, something went wrong, of course. All right, so we're going to kick that off. All right, and then we're going to do the same thing in Firebase. All right, so with Firebase, you cannot, oh yeah, I included the image. All right, so Firebase is a little more annoying. You can only include an image. So what you're gonna do is include this wireframe.png. That's gonna be the visual. It's gonna tell Firebase what to work with. And what we're going to do is go to the PRD doc. We're just gonna copy this TLDR and this goal section. I find that's enough to give it a general, we are making, all right, so we just give it a little bit of description. We can follow up. All right, and we're going to send Firebase on its way. All right. Firebase is going to create a plan for us, but Lovable is everything's betting on Lovable. So with Lovable, again, can only attach images right now. So we're going to attach that one image. With Lovable, we're going to post, actually, I'd say the most. So I want this part we are making, et cetera, et cetera. Then I am actually going to take, all right. So that's, I just used my history, but this is the part that I got from Gemini to create the front end based on the following code. And then I'm going to post that super long code with the index TSS. And then I'm going to kick it off. All right, now I'll explain a little bit about what's going on and also talk about some of these tools broadly. All right, we'll see. Just give it a check. All right, so we can see Gemini. I forgot to tell it to put it into a canvas. So I hit make a canvas, if anyone caught that. Basically, Gemini calls its code area a canvas. So either hit that try now button or tell it, if it's finished, just tell it to move things to a canvas. And then also let's check on Studio. So Studio is going to come up with this. What we're going to do with Studio is we're actually going to take our tech stack document. Actually, no, we can only attach images again. So let's reattach the image. And then I'm going to copy and paste the entire tech stack. And the reason I'm doing this specifically with Firebase is Firebase can code a lot of different ways, a lot of different things. It's a little bit more technical. It's trying to plan things out, but it didn't take any of my elaborate documents as input. So here is a for the app. All right. But really we're waiting on Lovable. Let's create. All right. So we have something. This is a very common thing. So there's a good chance your first will break, error, build unsuccessful. And this is a common thing with the AI. I like to tell everyone that working with AI is working with an inexperienced intern. Just keep asking it, keep telling it to move forward. It will continue to power through and fix the problems on its own and report back. All right. Oh, all right. And one thing that we are going to do. So in settings, this is in Lovable how we give it our background knowledge. So this is its knowledge section, instructions and guidelines. What we're going to do here is we're going to copy the entire tech stack. So tech stack. All right, then we're going to say require. All right, then we're going to copy that PRD. So basically now moving forward, Lovable, every time we ask it anything, it's going to automatically have stored in the back of its mind exactly all the stuff that we're working on. And as we can see in one shot, Lovable created it won't work, but it has created everything that we put in the UI, right? Working API key, load models, things like that. Studio, let's go ahead and hit prototype. And all right, Google, are you still working on it? Let's try restarting Google. Well, let's see if let me see if I grab any questions. Okay, can you talk about knowledge management, collaboration practice in resource environments? No tech firms, low literacy levels, etc. Great question. SharePoint is the classic knowledge management tool, right? So Microsoft makes it and has made it. So it looks like we're having an error here. So all right, but let's focus our attention here more so on Lovable. So before I answer that question, what we want it to do next. So one is we can check out the Vibe Coder Guide. The Vibe Coder Guide might have polish and functionality, complete application, header with customized settings. This is what we kind of already did. Settings at the bottom. Install Google Generative AI Library, AI prompts instructions. Okay, this is what we want. So polish and functionality. We're going to copy that prompt. I'm going to paste it there. All right. If anyone just saw or noticed, part of the prompt is to remember no backend, no authentication, just like an intern, but you don't have to be nice to it. But it does help to really speed things up. All right. Now, I know we're at time. I'm going to continue to stay on and continue to work. I know several people have to run. We will make this available, this recording available. It should be already available on YouTube. We'll also send out a kind of more cleaned up, polished version of this. So I will continue on, but I did want to pause. One, John, I did want to check if you had anything to mention before we end our official part of this and go into the after hours hacking. But if not, I'll keep on rolling.
I just want to say thank you to everybody who came. And as Damien said, we'll continue to work and we'll continue to record this so that you can go back and watch it later. I know I'm amazed. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. And I think the third's about to fix itself. So this is pretty amazing. And I hope everyone's been truly inspired by this. This is the first of a 3-part series. Don't forget that. So go on to Luma and sign up for the next one. And please consider checking out the product symposium, which will be on October 16th, our website, product.umd.edu, to learn more about all the great things we're bringing you for free from Maryland. And if you're interested in growing your career, consider a degree with us. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Damien, so that we can continue in this incredible demonstration.
Yes. All right. So let me show a little bit of where we are. So we have Lovable has at least finished. It says it's implemented the Google AI. So it's implemented a lot of stuff there. Okay, cool. Try that on the second. As we see, Firebase Studio has kind of gone off the rails. I believe we gave it a very explicit picture to work with. And here we are. And it's asking me for my Gemini key. It's like, just work, man. All right. And interestingly, the preview, which I promise I did get working yesterday. I should show it. I told it still isn't working, but we're still not getting anything usable here. You might try this prompt over again. All right, but let me answer a few questions and then we'll continue with the vibe coding. So knowledge management. So as I mentioned, shared drives, SharePoint is the classic knowledge management system. The main thing is that, again, storing the information in the correct format. Word docs aren't going to be necessarily the best. Again, Markdown or a text file or text of some sort. So you could create a shared team folder that simply has a lot of these instructions for the entire team there. And it's a very relatively low literacy way to do it. The other way, though, really is to set up those team projects or models so that people can log in, hop into the whatever it is, project or agent, and then keep it moving. All right, do I trust the quality of generated code? Is it production grade? How about maintaining it? Yes, I forgot this huge caveat. This is not production grade code. You can make production grade code. These tools can make production grade code. You do need to understand what you're doing. There's a lot of stories of people kind of like, I vibe coded an app over the weekend and I made $80,000. And then immediately, once the Twitter post goes live, the internet attacks them and takes their site and steals all their money from their account. There are a lot of just good security tactics, especially if you're going to be taking money or implementing payments, that you need to understand. These platforms can do it. They can actually are very good. You can have them write the test, but you need to understand to make it write the test, and you need to understand the frameworks that. Now, I will say you can teach yourself a lot from the LLMs. You can ask it to tell you about the tech stack to understand. You can sit there and actually get competent enough. But that's the caveat I definitely want to say. All right, is smart Googling a moment the better option instead of AI? The truth is, Google smart Googling now is highly AI. It jumps up at the top. They're both important. So I recently, funny internal story at my house, I was talking with my wife and she was looking for a button on her AirPods. And the reason she was looking for a button is because AI told her there was a button on the AirPods. She didn't remember which model it was. AI told her what model. It was completely off. I remember what model because I bought them for her. I simply Googled, how do I pair these headphones, these AirPods, and the answer came right up. The truth is AI gets confused a lot. There's a lot of information. I already talked about context and overload. So imagine if the context of the AI every time you ask the question is, the entirety of human nature. And this is, again, why I go back to like the one-shot fallacy and like AI can do it. People will ask AI a question, get an answer, and assume it's correct. Again, dumb intern, verify. And there are now AIs that can verify. GenSpark, for example, that super agent has a particular agent that's called just the fact checker agent. Yes, you will get access to the slides along with the recording and intellectual property and privacy considerations. So can I go back to the QR code? Hopefully that was an hour ago. I think I went back. Hopefully you got that. But yes, so there will be no certificate for this, unfortunately. All right, AI agent side. All right, so I think there's gonna be the last question, but for intellectual property and privacy concerns, as I mentioned, each LLM and company does publish and have a privacy policy. Anthropic is one of the more enterprise focused and is very upfront. We don't save your stuff. We have to opt in, things like that. Cohere, which none of you have probably heard of is another model, very enterprise focused, and I kind of like trust them to not use data because there's such heavy need on it. Google Gemini. I probably should have warned people, but if you did go get a free API key, one part of the use of it being free is that they can train on anything you send it. So if you send it your social security number, it goes into its library. I'm in DC. I've worked on government contracts before, and there was government contracts where explicitly you cannot use the LLM because there's a concern of the information leaking. OpenAI does have like a Fed cloud or a federal cloud that does work. So there are solutions and workarounds, but it is something to think about, especially if you work on certain types of cleared material. All right, so let's see if this version worked. I'm interested. I want to see. Kind of want to create a quick poll now to see where how far folks go. All right, test of truth is loading this API key. Okay, so it didn't work because I know this is BS. These aren't really the names of the models. Yeah, you provide. Oh, please provide LinkedIn post test. Okay, fair. But I will be highly impressed if it works on this first shot. I just entered it. Going to stop sharing real quick. As, yep, my suspicion was right. It was trying to show my key. Okay, cool. All right, so, and this is part of the vibes. So we're getting an error. If I try and put something in, I get this, kind of weird error. So what we'll do is let me hit this. I'm gonna take a screenshot. And post that here. And I'm going to say, I'm actually going to speak, which is another tool I did not talk about, Super Whisper. Your Mac, and obviously you can talk to it, but it's a tool that does really good voice processing. Let's go ahead and fix some bugs here. So when I try and click the Generate AI button, I get an error message that pops up. And when I hit the Load Models button using the Gemini API key, the correct models don't actually load up. In addition, when I pushed the resume generation button, I was also asked for my API key, even though it was already stored. Ensure that we are securely storing the API key when it's entered and that it is being used and referenced elsewhere. And let's focus right now on implementing the load models functionality. So let's focus on getting that working. Now, how you talk to your LLM is is part of the craft and how you want to talk to it, whether you say thank you or not. Generally speaking, more context, the better. So what that means is if you, oh yes, actually could have it create a plan. It's gonna tomorrow minutes. All right. What was I saying? Yeah, sorry. So, and this comes back to kind of understanding what's going on, right? So I was able immediately to tell, and once we kind of get this working, or if I can show on this version, right? This is what the model names look like when they get pulled from a list. There's like a ton of them. There's 2.0 Flash, things like that. There's some chances in theory, filtering them, 99% sure that's not true. Okay, so see, now I hit load models, I get kind of the model list that I would expect. Let's go ahead and just use Flash Preview. I believe that should be free. Let's see if I hit the button and error web server is down. All right. Let's try this again. All right, and yeah, these customized settings, resume history. So as you can see, this isn't implemented. There's a good chance a lot of the stuff isn't actually implemented, but oh, wait. Success. All right. So here we managed to get it working. So we now are able, with relatively few prompts, to create a generated resume. But, it doesn't look great. Why are these $2 signs there? Is this, and there's some questions I have. Are you really taking into account this, this core prompt? And what about the resume history? Why aren't we storing the resume history? So let's go ahead and let's kind of venture on. So one thing I noticed real quick is that this load models isn't working anymore. So one thing with Lovable that we can do. So a couple things just to mention about Lovable, and this applies to many of the platforms in different ways. There's this dev mode versus the preview. So this is actually all the code that has been developed by Lovable behind the scenes. Going back to GitHub, one smart thing to do is to connect it to GitHub, and this now has Lovable publish its code to your repository so you can do whatever you want with it later on behind the scenes. Supabase is a all-in-one backend as a service. So you can connect Supabase. They do have a free account, and this would allow you to do things like authentication. So that's how on my site there's actually a authentication, and then the saving, for example, is implemented using that. So one thing that we're going to feature we're going to use from Lovable is we're going to hit this edit button. But the edit button is actually you can just type in something here and you can straight edit it. So I want to call this model list instead, and I can hit save, and now it will save. All right. Which brings me actually to how usage works in Lovable, but we'll get to that one in a second. But right now, this model list isn't working correctly. All right, so actually I'm going to refresh. So what was happening is, for whatever reason, I can't select this model selector at all. So I'm going to tell it that it's messing up. And even one thing that's messing up about it is that I can't properly select it in the first place, which is weird, but all right, go with that. All this. All right, let me check the questions. All right, answered that. All right. Where do you think AI will be in 50 years' time? How do you know what tools to use when? Talk about that. Our LLM, GDR for a client in general. Okay, cool. All right. AI in 50 years. So this is the thing about AI. All right. Got an error. So sorry, just checking. Sorry to keep jumping around. I'm probably multitasking too much for an audience this size, but roll with me. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and hit fix error there. Hopefully that will fix it. I've kind of just paused on Firebase Studio at this moment, but something I'll point out about Firebase Studio too, similarly, they have a switch to code. So Firebase Studio kind of treats it as two different versions. This is the heavy, hard. Anyone who's used VS Studio or Cursor will recognize these kind of attributes. And then they have this prototyper, which is the easier kind of Lovable style format. But anyways, 50 years in AI. So the truth is it's very, very hard for me to predict. And I say that because I saw all right, this seems to be working now. Okay. I saw the mobile revolution. I saw early on, and I just wouldn't have guessed it ended where it would have ended. The truth is, there's so many. We're just kind of scratching the surface. Some things in particular I think that are very interesting, and these are actually we're going to be having 2 more talks this year, potentially some more. But the next one is going to be talking with product managers who are working on products that are based on ML and components. For example, a friend of mine, he's at Google. He's working on a labs product in the search team that creates a daily podcast based on what you find interesting. So people like that. But there's a couple things that I think are really, really interesting when we start talking 50 years out. One thing right now is that AIs all talk in words. That is not the most efficient way for computers to talk, but right now we need to engage with the LLM. So when there is more agent to agent or LLMs working together, I'm intrigued to see what the language that they speak in actually looks like. And if anyone saw Her, the movie, basically the LLMs like talking in English was painful to them. It was too slow, too inefficient. They would be having like 1,000 simultaneous conversations all at the same time. Then there is context. So I think when we engage with LLMs, the context that it has, and a lot of what I've talked about is on giving it the whole context, and a lot of what we spent time on was just giving context to the LLM. Google I/O and their recent demo, they showed that you can wear glasses, and the glasses remembers everything, even though you don't. So it's now interesting to say that you may be asking a question of an LLM that may know yourself better than you do because it sees and remembers everything. It has infinite memory. You don't have photographic memory. So what does that look like? And some interesting things around that. Even if anyone has played with ChatGPT and its memory, I've been using ChatGPT so long that I asked it questions and it actually can tell me about myself. I asked it to show me some issues about me as a person. I showed it to my wife and she said, what psychologist told you this? It can be hauntingly accurate. Anyways, so the point though is that once the AIs have these full context, and the last thing I think that potentially is really interesting when you start talking about 50 years is that context is so important. And with the advent of technology such as crypto and blockchain, there's now a world where in a privacy aware way, you can bring your context, keep it to yourself, and only share it with the LLMs as you want. So now, instead of you saying that like ChatGPT knows me well, I know me well, I can let ChatGPT tie into different levels of my deepest, darkest secrets versus just my work level. And it's interesting to think about what happens when you can bring your personal context around with you to multiple different models. Which, for example, would be nice now as we try and get these multiple models to do the exact same thing. So hopping back into vibe coding. And then one last thing, too, is that if you start imagining, well, there's 2 other things. One is that as we're creating a UI in front of our faces right now, this is still broken. All right, I'm going to give it one more try. I don't think we have time to kick off another instance, but let me see if I can actually find the other chat. But there, once everything has some level of basic intelligence because it's so cheap to run, it's essentially like, Wi-Fi enabled. What does that mean, right? What does it mean when your microphone actually can detect and speak back to you and say like, hey, you're yelling a lot, right? And then secondly, when your interfaces can rewrite themselves. So instead of you having to wait for an update, you can just say, hey, you know what? I don't want resume history. Can you just delete that? And when we get into a world where software is rewriting itself for the user, how does that work, right? How, as a product designer or manager, do you control a product that inherently do anything that the user wants within guardrails? So some really, really interesting stuff. All right. I think we're at a pretty good point here. I think one thing I want to do is actually, can you output the prompts? All right. I have not tried this one before. Now, one thing is behind the scenes, right? We've told it like, hey, this is your system prompt. And if you read through it, I generated this using a system prompt generator, but it explains it's a professional generator. Actually, I believe there's a longer prompt. This actually seems kind of short. There should be. Oh, okay. I'll actually add that to the repository. There's a separate file that is just the prompt. And this thing is not having it today. Let's see. All right, let's see. But one thing is behind the scenes, it is crafting a prompt, right? We're trusting it to take this LinkedIn information, take the job description, put it all together in the back end in a meaningful way. Prompt engineering, which I didn't talk about, is extremely important skill for PMs in particular, anyone who's learning about evals or AI evaluations. All right, so here we see, here's the toast notification. Of course, it is so big, can't really even see it. Yeah, all right. So I might play around with that and have it show in a log or something along those lines. But I think we have gotten to a pretty good place. I think in relatively quick time, we've built one, hopefully two working prototypes. We may not get to the second one today. And hopefully everyone's left with a lot of information around how you can build these type of tools yourself. All right, cool. Sorry, I just got an example. All right, so here's one that I did manage to create yesterday. I believe, just to prove that Google can get it to work. Open. All right, so I was able to get this in here. This may just be the wireframe, but just to show that. But yes, there are plenty of free tools. Everyone is fighting for your attention, your money, your API keys to get you locked into their platform. We're really at the precipice of what's being created now. And the truth is, there are so many launches. There's so much that I didn't get to cover. We'll be following up with everybody. We're looking into doing an advanced MVP development course after this, but really appreciate everyone here staying on late for me, and have fun vibe coding.